Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at. It is wonderful to be here with you. Once again, my name is Jabari Osaze, also known as Heru Jedin Ma'at Anten Ra. And we have Dr. Anika Daniels Osaze behind the laptop, obviously. You're not seeing her on screen right now, also known as Infra Ma'at. And we are pleased that you have joined us once again for Kemetic Ascension, brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. We welcome you to Kemetic Ascension for June 4th, 2023. We're so pleased that you have joined us. This is an excellent time for you to like the video if you're watching it on YouTube, share the video to your page if you're on Facebook. Make sure that you are speaking to those individuals that you know that should be with us here for this important gathering. And you already know that whenever we begin Kemetic Ascension, I begin by asking you to do something important. Please let us know how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension and where in the world you are. Let us know how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension and where in the world you are. We're looking forward to hearing from you and knowing more about your journey as we begin our gathering, Kemetic Ascension. Please let us know where in the world you are and how long you've been part of this important gathering. Do we have any responses?
Yes, Blue the Wise. Tell us where you're from. Oh, Amun Setinu. Here's the name.
Ankh Ma'at, how are you?
Okay, Deuce Lindsay. Tell us where you are.
Amun Setinu is a name we know, isn't it? Once again, I'm working on a few hours sleep, folks. So Amun Setinu is actually, he's one of our initial. In fact, Amun Setinu, of course, it took me a minute. How are you? How are you and your queen? We officiated, myself and Abu Waziri officiated your wedding. How are you? I'm hoping that all is well. Took me a minute to get that. Is that the same blue person?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he has two different names. Okay, good. See, you threw me off for a second there. Please, who else do we have here?
Jason Edwards.
Ankh Ma'at to you, said Jason.
We have Casey. Tell us where you're from. We have Timothy Forever.
Ankh Ma'at, that is the Jati of Bennu out in Phoenix. Ankh Ma'at to you, dear brother.
K Blue 2, tell us where you're from. We have Quadro, tell us where you're from. Oh, so I'm in England. Been following Brother Jabari for a while. I'm new here though.
Quadro sounds like it's a Ghanaian name, doesn't it? Quadro, are you from Ghana? That sounds like a Ghanaian, it sounds like a Fanti name.
We're Shane the Watcher out in Sacramento, California.
Ankh Ma'at to you. Have you seen Enter the Spider-Verse? I have not seen it yet. Hopefully if I'm awake, I'll go see it today. Just came out this weekend.
Yeah. Tassetti from Denver, Colorado.
Ankh Ma'at, another person that we've heard from. Ankh Ma'at to you.
That's just over a year. K Blue 2 says they've been with us since April from the DMV area.
Ankh Ma'at, we have lots of folks in the DMV area, including lots of folks who are initiates. Ankh Ma'at.
And Essence Divine from Waterbury, Connecticut.
Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at.
There's Sakina Ra, our initiate out in North Dakota.
Ankh Ma'at, how are you? How are you, Sanette? I hope that all is well. I haven't been with Sonetta in a little bit, so I haven't seen. I'm assuming you're still one of his active mods, doing a good job over there. Ankh Ma'at to you.
We have Mark David Vincent. Tell us where you're from.
Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at.
Casey says, initiate Christy Love.
Oh, Ankh Ma'at, one of our new initiates. Ankh Ma'at to you.
San Diego.
Wonderful. Ankh Ma'at.
We have Heru Assad Amin Ra from Dallas, Texas.
Ankh Ma'at. Ankh Ma'at.
Sen Gavin.
One of our full members. Sen Gavin, you sent me a text. I didn't see the text until after the weekend that you said you'd be in New York City. I have been drinking from a fire hose. It is not easy. I apologize that I missed you and your family. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch up with you the next time you're in this area.
It's in Jason out in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Ankh and Ma'at, one of our full members and active members. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Good to know that you're out there doing what you do.
And we have Yoga Girl, Boots the Shots.
Ankh and Ma'at. I think it's cool for us to say she's in Harlem these days, right? I think she's been announcing it. You're in Harlem, right? Ankh and Ma'at to you. Although she may be visiting Connecticut. She was visiting Connecticut. Ankh and Ma'at, wherever you are, it's good to know you're out there. What'd you say? She's gonna come after me? Yeah. No, she's not. No, she's not. I think she was telling people that she was in Harlem, I think. I didn't give your address. Look in the chat. We put her address in the chat.
Quadro says that he is Quadro. He's Jamaican, but he's adopted a Ghanaian name. His wife is Ghanaian.
Ah, got it. I knew that was a Ghanaian name. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
That wonderful couple, the Schaefers, are with us.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at, the Schaefers, who I believe are still in Kemet, by the way. They are not trying to let them go. That's the couple from Texas who moved to Ghana and is doing some residency work in Kemet. They are not letting them go. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have Kuruma Lab out in Ottawa, Canada.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
Brandon Moore, one of our members.
One of our full initiates. Yeah, Indiana, right? Ankh and Ma'at to you. And I know he travels extensively. Are you going anywhere interesting, Sen Brandon?
We have Juice the Orange since March from the Congo.
I think you've said that name once, at least once, and it is interesting. She didn't laugh last time. This time she got it, right? She just said it last time and left me to laugh on camera. See that? Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Caleb Bryson out in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
Gaston Bryant out in Arizona.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Hope you're doing well out in Benue.
Dora of Asset out in St. Louis, Missouri.
Ankh and Ma'at. Interesting name, wonderful name. We've heard it before. Ankh and Ma'at, welcome back.
Cherise Clement out in Cleveland.
Ankh and Ma'at. I don't know if I've heard that name. Ankh and Ma'at and welcome if I haven't.
Yep. Bernadette Collins out in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Say again?
New initiative.
I knew I recognized the name. Ankh and Ma'at to you. By the way, folks, you know that on the internet people use all kinds of names, right? So sometimes it might throw us off, particularly if you're one of our new initiates. You don't have an initiate class name yet. That's coming soon. Please go ahead and let us know that you're one of the new initiates. We have, I believe, 23 or 22 or 23 new individuals going through the process to become full members of the Shrine of Ma'at. Ankh and Ma'at to all of you.
Yeah, Gerald Biella from South Africa.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at. Say again, Northwest.
Potchefstroom.
Ankh and Ma'at, South Africa is one of those places on our bucket list. We haven't been there yet. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Boots the Shot says she lives in Harlem, but she's in Connecticut visiting mom right now. She already saw a fox and her mom saw a bear.
A bear? Well, I'm sure Connecticut has brown bears. They don't have black bears. So see, New York City dwellers who hear bear, we think of that large thing that, like the cocaine bear. No, that's not what that's. I'm sure in Connecticut they have brown bears, which are kind of the size of a dog. And Anika's looking at me going, if it's a bear, it still shouldn't be something near me. That's what that expression is.
Cocaine bear.
What? Cocaine Bear is a very popular movie. Folks, could you please, Anika's making fun of me. Can you type a 4 in the chat if you've heard of Cocaine Bear? It's a very popular movie. See, type a 4 so you can see everyone's heard of it. She's making me seem like I'm strange. Why is that being on Sunnetter? It's something that's in the ether. It's a movie. It's a very popular movie. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have Wilnet, Luis, Efua, Ma'ati, Robinson, Avoja, I said. I hope I said.
It sounds like Kemetic names and Ghanaian names. That's what it sounds like to me. Especially the Efua, right? Efua sounds like it's.
Yeah, but I think I said that right.
It sounds Ashanti to me, but I could be wrong. Please let me know.
And she's between Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Baltimore.
Wow. That's a big journey. I wonder what takes you on such an interesting journey from the South to, she said Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the Salt. I guess Baltimore is Baltimore technically the South, or is it still the Northeast? It's probably just the South, right? Yeah. So, but it's really close to the Northeast. It's not far from here. Ankh to you.
Sinette Cortia. Repping Atlanta.
Repping Atlanta, Ankh and Ma'at to you. I am trying to figure out when. I'd love to come to Atlanta this year and do some stuff over at the Carlos Museum. Maybe do a lecture there as well. By the way, if you have connections with any institutions that might be a good place for me to do a lecture at, Sinette Cortia, please let me know. Please let me know.
Sinette Anike out in Gambia.
Sinette Adenike. I don't think I've heard her name recently. Ankh and Ma'at to you. I hope all is well. I hope you're doing excellently on the mother continent.
Then Cleo Ford here in New York.
Ankh and Ma'at. I think Sen Cleo is like in Queens. He's really close. He's not far at all. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have Ra Moses from Tallahassee, Florida.
Ankh and Ma'at. We usually have a bunch of folks from Florida and a bunch of folks from Texas, although I think we only have one initiated in Florida and maybe two in Texas. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
A bunch of fours.
A bunch of fours. See? They heard of the Cocaine Bear. She tried to make me feel funny because I mentioned a movie that everybody saw. It had an advertisement during the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, lots of people know that movie's there.
So Ashley Amara.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Houston.
She's not new. Ashley Amara is from the last class. Yes, Ankh and Ma'at to you. How are you in Houston? The last time I saw you, you were in Vegas. So how is Houston treating you? I hope you're doing well. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have Naba Sage Elmore in London.
Yes, Sen Naba is one of our new initiates. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at, did he signify himself? Come on, y'all. We need to, we're the Wenwet and I are gonna have to talk about how to designate people better so that we know who they are when they come on. Maybe there's something you type, because sometimes these online, the streaming names, the names that you have on different services might throw us off. Although Sen Naba is someone that I'm aware of. So not Naga, yeah. Not Naba, right? Naba, yes, Sen Naba, yes.
22nd Ra Kepri out in DMV.
What's the name again?
22nd Ra Kepri.
Ankh and Ma'at, I love that. The power of transformation, the power of brilliant transformation is the way I would. That's a nice name, actually. It's an neutral name. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Yes. Malachi Sewell.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at.
Queen Sevaka.
Ankh and Ma'at, our new initiate in the DMV area. Ankh and Ma'at. Sinette, one of our very active members.
There's Leslie Eagles, who will be traveling with us this summer.
Ankh and Ma'at, wonderful.
I'm not sure if I said this, but Shane the Watcher 616.
You did, Ankh and Ma'at. He probably is letting me know whether he saw Into the Spider-Verse yet.
No, he has a question. Is there a specific funerary prayer that I can use at work? I recently started transporting the deceased for the county. I wonder what silent prayer I can say for them.
We are going to, it's interesting that he put that there, because I'm going to show you a funerary prayer. I call it the ancestral transition prayer today. I'm going to show you where. Oh, did I bring down my? I don't think I brought it down. Well, it'll be on the screen. Definitely. I don't know how I forgot that upstairs. You definitely will see a ancestor transition prayer, and I'm going to show you where it is in the Rayu Pertim Harungir as well.
Your Sinet meet.
Ankh Ma'at, reppin Beantown. Ankh Ma'at, how are you, Sinet? One of our full members.
Lady Pet Davis.
Another of our full members, Ankh Ma'at. Where's Lady Hetta? Where's she again? Colorado. Right, that's right. Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at. One of our full members. I hope all is well with you. Is that most of everyone?
Sandra Harper, tell us where you're from.
Ankh Ma'at, that name is familiar. I wonder if she's one of the newer initiates. Ankh Ma'at to you. Ankh Ma'at to you all. Please live your life in divine balance. Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at, Ankh Ma'at. I'm so pleased that you've chosen to spend part of your Sunday with us here for Kemetic Ascension, brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. We absolutely are feeling lifted and pensive. I know that's how I feel with all of the things that have occurred in the last week. We'll talk a little bit more about them during our section where we go to the word from the Sevaid. But I truly hope that you are doing well. I truly hope that the spring is greeting you well. And I hope that you are assisting others on their journey of divine balance. Remember, this is a good time to share the link to this video. You can share it on your Facebook page or wherever else if you like. And it's also a good time to thumb up the video on YouTube. You should know that your thumbs are the ways that people see this video. And of course, we often say it is also important if you are able to give a donation, it would be wonderful. Because remember, we don't do this for money, but we definitely need money to do it. So Ankh Ma'at to you all. I'm honored that you have chosen to join us. So, as you probably know, if you are a regular participant of Kemetic Ascension, we begin anything of importance with the ritual that was put into its current form by our elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samaj Se Pratah, often known as Baba Heru or Samaj. And we're asking that you stand with us and do this sacred ceremony. This ceremony that reminds us just how powerful we are, reminds us that we are infinitely imbued beings of divine energy, prepared to do the work that our ancestors expect us to do. So we ask you to stand upright. This is not theater. You're supposed to be doing it with us, right? Stand upright and then take a slight stride forward with your left foot, like you're about to step off. And then expose your palms in front of you. As you expose your palms in front of you, you can actually put the left palm a little bit further forward than the right palm. Have the right palm a little further back and a little further down. In some ways, it mirrors the way that you are standing. Now remember, don't do this. I always see people doing this. You're not supposed to break your wrist that dramatically. As we look at the images of our ancestors on temple walls, we never see them with palms like this. Their palms are always, if your wrist is broken, it's broken ever so slightly. Does that make sense? So we are telling you how to do this position because our ancestors replicated this position on temple walls and on papyri for thousands of years. Obviously, it was important so that you should do as our ancestors have done. This is called the pose of adoration. From here, what you're going to do is you're going to take a deep breath. I don't know why I just did that. From here, what you're going to do is take a deep breath, and then you're going to take the breath from your navel, from your diaphragm. And as you take your breath, you're going to chant out the word for Ankh, life, divine everlasting life. Try to make that chant nasal so that you're drawing energy from here to here and out to the universe. Does that make sense? I hope that you're with me. I think that whatever other motion I'm doing tells it to go to its right. Anyway, please prepare to do the opening of the way. Take your breath.
Anetrak in Bedhet.
Anetrak in Bedhet.
Nuke in Bedhet.
Nuke in Bedhet. Anetrak Hapi.
Anetrak Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter.
Turn to the right.
Anetrak Serket.
Anetrak Serket.
Nuke Serket.
Nuke Serket. Anetrak Kebsenu.
Anetrak Kebsenu.
Nuke Kebsenu.
Nuke Kebsenu.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak As.
Anetrak Ast.
Nuke As.
Nuke Ast. Anetrak Amset.
Anetrak Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Neat.
Anetrak Neat.
Nuke Neat.
Nuke Neat. Anetrak Dwamutef.
Anetrak Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Newt.
Anetrak Newt.
Nuke Newt.
Nuke Newt. Anetrak Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Nuke Geb. Twal Winter. Anetrak Shu.
Anetrak Shu.
Shu. Shu. Shu. Shu. Nuke Shu.
Anetrak Tefnut.
Anetrak Tefnut. 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 Nuke Tefnut. Twal Winter. Anetrak Paut in Teru. Nuke Paut in Teru. Anetrak and Boo in Teru. Nuke and Boo in Teru. Twal Winter. Take your breath. Twal Winter. Dwa, dwa, dwa. Dwa once again for doing that important ritual with us. The ritual known as the opening of the way. Put into its current configuration by our elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Sepata. Please give him some love. He is the founder of the studio of Pata. He is the keeper of the studio of Pata, the founder of the Shrine of Pata, and the elder of the Shrine of Ma'at. He has a very hefty role as one of those individuals who has been steadfast in the Kemetic tradition for the longest in the West. It is extremely important that we recognize the important work that he has done. So we say Ankh and Ma'at to you, Baba Heru. Know that you should reach out to him, but definitely one of the other things that you can do is simply send him a donation, or you can also purchase some of the magnificent sa that he has been creating for now over 50 years. We want to say dwa, dwa, dwanter for Baba Heru once again. Okay, so at this point in our gathering, you may know that we actually engage in Hesi. Hesi is the manner in which our ancient Kemetic African ancestors galvanized divine energy in affirmation, in harmony, and in song. It is Kemetic gospel before the word gospel ever existed. That's what it is. It's the way that our ancestors truly engaged in celebrating the divine force that pervades the entire universe and is the stuff that we are made of. So today, I believe we're going to do the, which Hesi again, Anika? The Rupu Aniku Kemam Keperu, and then Terhayu. That is the Hesi that comes from the Rayu Pertan Hurunger, which was popular in the Shrine of Ptah when we were members, when we were new members so many years ago. So you're going to hear the Schaefers, that wonderful couple out of Kemet, from Dodawagana, from Texas, give us their rendition of the Rupu Hesi. Please enjoy.
Uncle Jocelyn, Rupu Nuku Mamiku Kemam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. I am a shining, shining being, dwelling in the light, created from the limbs of divinity. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. Rupu Nuku Amiku Kimam Keperu, in Interhayu, Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn. Uncle Jocelyn.
Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. Dua once again to the Schaefer's for that wonderful Hesse. I want to say that we are so honored to be able to work with them on creating these beautiful pieces that are incredibly mastered. The music is beautiful and they're incredibly and beautifully sung as well. So Ankin Ma'at to both of you, that wonderful couple that is chilling on the continent. I have to say to you that as we go into what we call the word from the Seba'it, the word from the wisdom literature of ancient Africa, the world's first literature, the world's first genre of literature, I'm actually quite saddened today. It has been a heady period. Definitely one of the things that has been challenging is just feeling the energy of one of our dear initiates a young man who actually is not so young anymore. He's getting up there in age, but one of our full initiates who I have known for over 25 years, who I, in some ways, have served a Jegna for over 25 years, Sen Jehutimes, who actually, when I knew him, he was little Justin. He's not so little anymore. He's much bigger than me. I should say that Jehutimes is a really important part of our lives, and we were saddened that a little, I guess it's about nearly 2 weeks ago, he lost his mother, a wonderful, wonderful elder known as Mary. And so it was tough. I know that I knew his mother, I knew his father. His father passed some years ago. I knew them both. And I know that it has been hard for him and his siblings and the entire community to lose someone like her. The Shrine Ma'at was in there deep and heavy. We also saw at least one member, if not a few members of the Temple of Anu who came out to really hold the family down in a trying time. But I have to say to you that while it was challenging to know that she is no longer on the physical plane, just celebrating all the things that she did for our community. She was someone who engaged in harm reduction strategies from the earliest period, working with people who were addicted to drugs and people who were prostituting themselves, and just being on the street, helping people and giving them love, opening her home to so many of them. She was an incredible, incredible soul. And we know that she is more powerful than she ever could be on the ancestral realm. But either way, it is sometimes difficult for us to know that that individual is no longer in the physical realm. And so I want to continue to give solace. I want to continue to ask the ancestors and the Neteru to stand around that family, to ensure that that family is still strong and is living in the heights, even though their matriarch has now become an ancestor. So that's one thing. That was Friday that we all went. I know that Abu Waziri went. I looked in the back and I thought I saw Abu Kepra for a minute. I think I saw him and then he probably had to leave. I'm quite sure that he was there as well. Sen Corey was there. Senet Tara was there. Obviously, Anika and I were both there. And others were there just to support that family. That small church on 141st Street, the Church of the Meek, was filled because she had meant so much for this community. So please, if you have not already, send some love to one of our members who needs love right now. In addition to that challenge, I have been dealing with the continued killing, the continued murder, the continued violation of our people. And I'm going to say to you that listening to these stories always takes a toll on me, but I always feel it's important for us to recognize the things that are going on for the members of our community, even when they occur outside of this shrine. I want you to recognize that it is of critical importance for us to be with the community. As the keepers of the elder tradition, I hope that you are also saddened, but you have steadfast resolve. One of the things that was painful for me was hearing about the murder of young Cyrus Carmack Belton, a 14-year-old child who was shot in the back as he was accused wrongfully of shoplifting at a mart, a small grocery store that is part of a Shell gas station in Columbus, South Carolina. It was painful to hear this, and painful perhaps also even more because it reminds me, and we'll talk about this briefly as well, of the murder of young Latasha Harlan, who was 15 years old, I believe, when she was murdered in a similar manner. And you'll see the image of Rick Chow, who is the murderer, is the storekeeper and murderer of this young man. He was actually taken into custody and charged with murder, but that does not bring young Cyrus back. If you're not familiar with what occurred, please take a quick look at the news report that describes what occurred just a week ago in Columbus, South Carolina.
And now to South Carolina, where a community is on edge after a store owner allegedly shot and killed a teenager who was wrongly accused of shoplifting. Rick Chow is now facing a murder charge in the death of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton. Police say Chow had accused the teen of shoplifting bottles of water. The local sheriff says there's no evidence he stole anything. South Carolina NBC affiliate WIS-TV reporter Nick
Yes, good morning. So Chow had his first court appearance yesterday. Bond on that murder charge could not be set by the magistrate judge that he came before. It's going to have to be set by a circuit court judge at a later date. Representatives for the family of the victim, as well as for Chow, declined to speak at that hearing. Chow, for his part, also spoke very little at the hearing beyond saying, "Yes, Your Honor," acknowledging that he understood the judge's questions. Just to recap some of the facts of the case here, Chow's accused of chasing Cyrus out of the store Sunday night, suspecting him of shoplifting, and then shooting him into the back. That's according to the Richland County Sheriff's Department. Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott says there's no evidence that he stole anything. RCSD has reviewed surveillance footage as part of the investigation. Sheriff Lott said even if he shoplifted 4 bottles of water, that's not something that you shoot anybody over. Chow and his son chased Cyrus down the street. The teenager fell, got back up and ran. Lott said Chow's son told his father that Cyrus was armed. According to RCSD, deputies recovered a gun believed to belong to the victim near his body. Now, on Monday, community activists and advocates against gun violence gathered here at this gas station, and those peaceful protests took a turn Monday night when the gas station was broken into. The entire property is now taped off. Sheriff Lott appearing exasperated in a news conference yesterday, saying that vandalizing the property and stealing beer has nothing to do with the murder of this 14-year-old boy. Let's take a listen to Sheriff Lott.
That store did not shoot that 14-year-old. The person responsible has been arrested. He's in jail. He's in jail. Exactly where he needs to be. That's where justice is being served. Justice is being served by us going out and making an arrest. Justice is not served by going in and stealing cases of beer.
Now, I did have the opportunity briefly to speak with members of Cyrus's family yesterday, including his father. They are understandably grieving and did not wish to provide any statement to us at this time. Reporting in Columbia, I'm Nick Neville.
Nick Neville from NBC affiliate WIS-TV. Thanks so much for joining us. And I want to bring in the sheriff you just heard there.
I want to say that it's clear that there's no way that I would ever condone anyone destroying a property in their own community. On the same token, I understand that our people are frustrated. I understand that our people feel powerless. And I understand that they are grasping for any sort of behavior, action that might shift the balance, that might change these continued incursions against our children, these continued murders of Black people and even Black children. I know that they are frustrated because I'm frustrated. What if this young 14-year-old boy had stolen 4 bottles of water? What if he had stolen them? Would that justify brandishing a weapon against him? I'm not even talking about shooting. I'm saying brandishing a weapon against a child. Would that have been justified? And I want you to also understand that this store owner didn't even simply brandish the weapon against the child. He chased the child from the premises, ran him down in the street. The child tumbled and fell. By the way, where are the bottles as he's tumbling and falling? He tumbled and fell. They say that he ran out of his shoe and continued to run. It was at that time that the store owner's son told the store owner that the boy was armed. And this store owner shot this young child running from the store without any merchandise, with one shoe in the back. That's what happened. That's what happened. I'm only mentioning the fact that this young child had a weapon here to give you the full story. The reality is that no one who saw the event, and not even the store owner, said that this child pointed the gun or removed the gun at him. He chased him down and shot him. Here we would usually say like a dog in the street, but you don't shoot animals in the street in this manner. This is what continues to happen in our community. How does this family recover after something like this? How do they deal with the fact that a 14-year-old child will not grow into maturation, not have their own children, not have their own lives, that their story on the physical plane ends here? In murder. I don't know how they deal with that. I don't know how we continue to deal with this kind of pain. I'm saying to you, beloved, that we have to do more. We have to fight these injustices. And the sheriff, who to his credit at least arrested and charged this man, or worked on charging this man, because I'm sure the district attorney is the one that charges, worked to arrest and hold this man, and he is being charged with murder. But the reality is, as you listen to his continued comments, he does not understand the full context of what occurs. He says, why should someone steal beer? Well, honestly, these folks are frustrated. That's what's happened. They feel like this system has taken so much from them that at the very least they should destroy those businesses that are part of this murder, destroy the lives of those individuals who are part of this murder. He also says at one point that he doesn't believe that the shooting was racially motivated. I'm going to say to you, dear sheriff, I really don't care what your position or understanding of the dynamics of the situation were. The reality is that this continues to happen to Black children. I think I see that someone had a comment or a question.
The question is, what can be done?
We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk more about that towards the end of this. I do believe that there are some things that we ought to do. Definitely. So please stay tuned. Let me say to you that I'm old enough to remember, as soon as I heard this, I realized I remembered a similar killing that occurred in 1991 in Los Angeles. And I'm going to say to you that in many ways, while the murder of young Latasha Harlins, who was 15 years old, at the hand of an Asian store clerk who shot her in the back of her head, while this murder has been largely forgotten, we should recognize that it was part of what made that community explode. It happened at the same time that the police officers were on trial for the beating of Rodney King. This is one of the other things that made that community explode. In many instances, the media describes the LA rebellion, or as they like to call the LA riots, as something that was simply a response to Rodney King. But once again, our people are frustrated. And this occurred just about 11 years ago. Take a look. Forgive the extensive video. I'm not going to show all of it. But take a look at this situation, because today I'm also going to ask that you say Hesi for the divine immortal soul of Cyrus Carmack Belton, and for the glorious ancestor, Latasha Harlins. Take a look at a news report commemorating the 11th year of her killing.
With the 30th anniversary this week of the 1992 LA riots, Fox 11 is taking a look back at the seeds of unrest even before the beating of Rodney King. There's a name that is also synonymous with that uprising. That's Latasha Harlins. Our Christine Devine has her story.
To understand the LA riots of 1992 is to know its backstory.
I want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Video of the 1991 beating of Rodney King by LAPD officers is infamous. But 2 weeks after this, there was a case that would also shake South Central LA to its core.
It was like Emmett Till. Everybody just ready to go to war. Everybody ready to fight.
Latasha Harlins was 15 when she was shot and killed by a liquor store owner, a Korean immigrant, who accused the teen of trying to steal a bottle of orange juice.
We grew up together. We were only 4 months apart. So we grew up together in the same house all the way from birth till the day she passed away. So it's my sister.
Shanice Harlins Kilgore is Latasha's younger cousin. You lived how far from this market?
Roughly half a block away.
And it's pretty normal to come here.
Normal to come here.
Here is now at Numero Uno Market. Back in 1991 at Figueroa and 91st, it was Empire Liquor.
I can still see her right there where she dropped that in the front of the camera, from the video. So no, I don't go in there.
Security video captured a scuffle between clerk and customer. Sun Jadu shot the teen in the back of the head, killing her. Witnesses said Harlins had cash in her hand.
To die with $2 in your hand, that lets you know that she was not that person that the media or whomever say so is what she is.
Du was convicted of voluntary manslaughter, but given probation. Then came April 29, 1992. The not guilty verdicts in the beating of Rodney King. 4 LAPD officers acquitted. Rioters took to the streets. And after years of cultural tensions, half the businesses burned or looted. 2,000 of them were Korean owned.
This 15-year-old child who got her brains shot and blown out over a dispute over a bottle of orange juice was the precursor to the civil unrest in 92. After the jurors found the LAPD cops not guilty for beating Rodney King.
That was activist Najee Ali last year.
We will never forget Latasha Harlins.
It was at a playground dedication and a mural of Latasha Harlins at Algin Sutton Recreation Center.
It's really beautiful.
There's a whole generation that may not know the story of Latasha Harlins, but there is a movie in the works, and last year a Netflix documentary got an Oscar nomination.
You come to this park as a child every day?
Every day.
Every day.
So it means what to have that artwork?
Priceless. Lots of emotion. The Rodney King beating.
I was a young anchor during this era, reporting live during the 1992 civil unrest. This picture ending up in a university textbook to the Harlan's family, documenting history matters.
Just so that this generation can know about what happened 30 years ago, because they don't know. You ask a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, it's not taught in school. It's not taught in their household, or it's just, it needs to be relevant right now.
That was Christine Devine reporting.
I believe I said that this killing occurred 11 years ago. I misspoke. You can see that it occurred 32 years ago. And certainly I remember what occurred during that time. I was a young college student when all of this occurred. And I want to say to you that if you live long enough, the names, they should not, but they become a blur. Because there's so many instances where young people, and even adults, of course, but young people particularly, have been killed by racist murderers. And as you saw, the store clerk in Latasha Harlan's case got probation for shooting a child with money in her hand that she had accused of trying to steal in the back of her head. How does probation allow this to continue? This is one of the reasons why that neighborhood exploded. Because a child was murdered, and the system gave that murderer virtually nothing. At the same time, that system acquitted the 4 police officers who beat Rodney King on camera. That's why it exploded. We ought not forget Latasha Harlan's story. We must remember that this continues to happen and do something about it. Don't become immune or inert to these situations. We have to continue to press. We have to continue to say that if you have done anything against our people, particularly our children, you will never again live in peace. Never again live in peace. I'm even seeing George Zimmerman, after he killed young Trayvon Martin, walking around with impunity. I heard that he sold his gun at auction. And I know that his legal fees were paid by white racists and conservatives around the country. Something similar is going on right now, as we see a former Marine choke to death a black man on a New York City subway train in front of everyone. Now all of his legal fees are being paid by white racists around the country. We ought to make sure that none of their lives exist in peace until they close their eyes. And I'm not just talking about the murderers. I'm saying that we have to work to ensure that this does not continue. If you, beloved, are one of the keepers of the scales, you have to become involved in movements for justice. You must become involved. So often I see members of the Kemetic community who in some ways are more aware of some of the things that are going on in our society. But how often do I see them on the front lines or on the lines at all in any of the movements for justice? Sometimes I simply hear from many members of the Kemetic community critiques of those who are trying to fight for justice. That's what I hear. What are you doing? We must do more. And I want you to acknowledge that, I want to acknowledge to you that what I call the crime of being Black is something that we see every day. Take a look at these situations. None of these situations ended in anyone dying, but they could have. We see here in 2018, we saw that actually a group of Black folks were barbecuing in the park, and a woman called the police on them. We saw a young man who was babysitting a white child be accosted by the police because someone looked at the child, by the way, who was getting out of the car, and said that that child must have been in danger because he was with a Black man. Child didn't look like they were in danger. Spoke to the child said, "This is my babysitter." Still called the police. Still called the police on him. That situation could have ended very, very painfully. And we also see these young children, 12-year-olds and younger, mowing the grass of people in their neighborhood for a few dollars. And one of the neighbors called the police because that child cut their grass by mistake. Instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? I see you doing something productive. I see you trying to work. I didn't ask you to cut my lawn. Here are a few dollars for that." What did they do? They called the police on children. You see me talk about each of these in Kemetic Ascension. And of course, as we talk about children, we must mention that we continue to see children murdered. We think about the death of Emmett Till. We think about the death of Tamir Rice, who was killed playing with a toy gun, something that little boys, probably almost every little boy in the country has done that. And when the police rolled up to the playground, they shot him within 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds. They jumped out the car and fired on a 10-year-old. That's what happened. That's what happened. We continue to see this. Of course, I mentioned before Trayvon Martin, who was just simply buying a soft drink and Skittles and was chased by someone who did not actually get convicted of anything. When are the murders of our children going to stop? What are we doing? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, as this case against this Rick Kim, I think his name is. I might have his name wrong. The case of the situation with Cyrus Belton. I want you to recognize Rick Chow. I want you to recognize that we have to stay vigilant to ensure that he is convicted of murder. There is no justification for chasing someone out of the store, even if you believe they stole 4 bottles of water. There is no justification for chasing them and shooting them in the back. We have to stay aware of what's going on there. Send an email to the DA saying that you're watching. Make sure that you're hitting up social media. Some of you probably have not even heard about this case. Put it up on social media and say, we have to stay vigilant. I'm going to say to you that I truly believe the only reason why he was even arrested for murder is because of our actions. Because just a few years ago, before the murder of George Floyd, I bet you very little would have happened to him. But we have to stay vigilant in this situation as well. And so let's put some context in our movements for justice. Let's put some context in why this is important. Let's listen to an elder ancestor from the Kemetic tradition tell us why we have to stay steadfast instead of becoming complacent, instead of becoming inured, instead of becoming desensitized to the senseless murder of our people. Listen to that elder ancestor who wrote about why we should continue to seek justice. I'm talking about none other than Ptah Hotep, the author of the world's oldest complete book. Listen to what he says about Ma'at. He says, Ma'at is good, and its worth is lasting. It has not been disturbed since the day of its creator, whereas he who transgresses against ordinances is punished. It lies as a path in front, even of him who knows nothing. Wrongdoing has never yet brought its venture to port. It is true that evil may gain wealth, but the strength of truth is that it lasts. A man can say, it was the property of my father. He is saying that there are those people who do evil, who do isfet, as we would have called it, that momentarily gain. And sometimes you could look at those gains and think, why should I do anything? But he's reminding us that Ma'at, in this instance, justice, the very order and balance of the universe, is lasting and undisturbed, and that it will come back upon them. In some ways, when I listen to Ptah describe this, literally nearly 5,000 years ago, I also see the words of another African ancestor, an African American ancestor in this instance, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." He is invoking the spirit, the concepts, the connection to justice that Ptah demonstrated thousands of years earlier. These quotes are the same. We've been saying this for a long time. And I also want us to recognize that as we look at the killing of our people, in fact, this speaks not just to killing, but as we look at our people who leave the physical plane as ancestors, maybe one of the things that should give us solace, one of the things that should give us pause, one of the things that should fill our hearts when they seem to be bereft, is the fact that our ancestors truly articulated the concept that death does not end us. That death is, in fact, a transitionary phase. And that our souls are immortal. Today, if you talk to people around the world about this concept, they might attribute it to Christianity. They might attribute it to Islam. But long before those traditions, your African ancestors described this. Described this in books that existed before the great-grandparents of those who wrote sections of the Bible and the Quran were even considered. I want to read to you from a section of the book known as the Reyu Pert and Ruin Ger in our tradition. Unfortunately, when Europeans came upon it amongst those African ancestors in Kemet and Nubia, particularly, I'm going to say, a German archaeologist, noticing that it was always with dead people, started to call it the Book of the Dead. And I'm going to say to you that is a terrible name. That's a terrible name. Simply because you find it with dead people, it's the Book of the Dead. You might have heard me say this before. This is almost like saying that your toothbrush is a toilet brush, because we always find the toothbrushes in the same room with the toilets. This makes no sense. And in fact, calling it the Book of the Dead, I'm sure, has prevented many an African from opening its pages. We should know that it is the Reyu Pert and Heru and Ger, the book of coming forth today from night. Here you're seeing two of the covers. These are both, well, the one on the right is the one that is fully illustrated. You should probably have that one in addition to the other ones that have the glyphs and the transliteration and then the translation. A really good one to have would be this version. This is the version that was put forth by A&B Books. Its cover was designed by our elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Se Patah. So it is so important for us to recognize that this book is one that gives us an understanding of what it means to die. That death is not an end. I want you, if you have your copy, particularly the copy that has been translated by E.A. Wallace Budge. The reason why I'm suggesting that copy is because it's the copy that has the glyphs, and then the transliteration, and then the translation. I want you to go to page 10. Go to page 10. And I'm going to show you how my copy, by the way, which is all marked up and written in, how my copy shows you a particular series of verses that should be seen as a prayer to those who are making their transition. And it expresses the fact that those ancestors can do something very interesting that perhaps will give us solace in their passing. I hope you have your book handy and you are open to page 10. Why don't you go ahead and type a 10 in the chat if you are now on page 10. Go ahead and type a 1 and a 0. Type a 10 in the chat if you're on page 10. And for those of you who are running around the house looking for the book, what are you doing? You in Kemetic Ascension, you should have your volumes of our spiritual texts handy. Because I'm going to start reading more from them in Kemetic Ascension. And I'm not going to just read as I have always read. I'm going to also say, get your copy. And this is so you're not just waiting for this bald-headed, bespectacled man to read for you. I want you to read it yourself. So how many of you have your version out to page 10? A lot? Wonderful. So let's proceed. Let's proceed. You're going to see about maybe a third of the way down the page. We're going to start from the section that says golden of limbs. Can you see that? Golden of limbs. At the top of the page, you're going to see the number 10, the unfortunate name, the Book of the Dead. And you're going to see that it comes from plate 2. Plate 2. And this is plate 2 of the Papyrus of Anui, who most historians and scholars today call Ani. But if you translate the name, it should be spoken as Anui. So it says here, read it along with me. I'm going to read the English. Actually, let's start reading the Kemetic section first. I'll do my best to read it here. It's Semu, Hedged, Chebet, Tep, Majia, Cher Tep, Auyef, An en Hech, Usech, Senbet, Nefer Heard, Ta Cert. I think that actually should be translated as Ta Cheseret. Anyway, you can see, this is my copy, a picture of my copy. You can see my notes. Taek, Hu, Empet, Us, Emta, Macheru, Neterhert, Het, Jejedu. I know that looks like Tetetu, but you can see that there's a Jed, right? That T with the dots underneath is actually the J. So it's Jejedu, Emba Ankh. Yes, you're seeing the word Ankh. Look at that spell there. And in here it means living. Henthi Abtu Mbenu. Akper An Senar Tu. Her Seba. Nebu M Tuat. It's actually, I would say, Duat. Au. Jaktu End. Tau M. Now go to page 11. Go to page 11. Paheb. Hebek. Hebek is probably the best way. Hebek is how I would say that. Hebek. Heb. Heb.
Yeah.
Hebek. Yeah. Hetepu. By the way, look at Hetepu. We say Hetepu all the time, right? Are you seeing it in the glyphs? Read your Pert M Heru. Hetepu. Anu. Sech Men Sek Et Aruri. Per Beti Amef. And Ka and Asar Ani. So this comes from that we're going to go back to 10 for a second. We're going to read it now in English. This is particularly written for Ani, but recognize that you would simply put the name of the deceased, of the person who is making their transition on the Sektet, the boat of Ra. Put their name in there. This is what I call my ancestral transition prayer. And I know as I say mine, the reality is all I'm doing is reading the text and speaking it. That's it. You know that there are those who critique us that say that all we do is chant Ankh and wear white, as if chanting Ankh and wearing white is a problem. But the reality is we're reading the text. And we're reading the words written by our most ancient African ancestors. So let's look at the translation here. Golden of limbs, blue of head, emerald upon both of his sides. Millions of years has this body lasted. I'm going to translate it that way. Beautiful of face in the land of those who have transitioned. Give you splendor in heaven and might on earth. Triumph in the place of the divine. Sailing down to Jejedu as a living soul. Sailing up to Abtu as a phoenix, as the Bennu. Going into and coming out without being repulsed at the gateways of the Duat. May there be given to this ancestor loaves of bread in the house of coolness and offerings in Anu, a field of the divine land, and wheat and barley to the divine soul of Asar in the form of our ancestor. This is a incantation. This is a prayer. And you had better believe that our ancestors spoke it upon the body of an ancestor, upon the body of the deceased. They did this thousands of years ago, and so should we. Now, there's some key points you better get here. There's some key points you better get here. Do you notice that, first of all, they're saying that this person is beautiful of face in the divine land? In some ways, what they're saying is that this body has not decayed. In other words, your form remains intact even though you have died. This is a reference to sahuification, mummification, and a reference to the concept that death does not destroy you. And of course, you can say your limbs are golden and your head is blue. By the way, is this a reference to Ptah? Perhaps. Perhaps. And you have emerald on both your sides. You are enclosed with the most sacred gems and the most sacred metal. That is beautiful. And that you will live for millions of years. Do you see Hek? This Hek, look at Hek. Look at Hek. We won't talk about Hek right now. That would take us far too long out of our conversation. We've talked about Hek before. And then we're saying, give this divine soul splendor in heaven and might on earth. Now, wait a minute, Jabari. I thought you said that this was a transitional prayer, that this is for someone who is dead, who is no longer on the physical plane and is going to the ancestral realm. Well, I did say that, beloved, But I want you to understand that your ancestors believed. No. Your ancestors understood that death does not destroy us. And much more, not only does death not destroy us, but that ancestors who are makeru, true of voice, are able to go to the ancestral realm and return to the realm of the living. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? They don't just go into heaven and they're no longer in access to us. They no longer have any interaction with us. They no longer have any presence on the physical plane. They no longer speak or eat or do or live. Our ancestors are telling us that they go and come as a living soul. And that they are not repulsed at the pylons, at the gateway, at the sebket, or as they say here, seba. This is just a smaller version of that. Of the land of the dead. In other words, these ancestors can come back into our land, back onto our plane, and have an effect in our lives. Are you crying over your mother who has passed? Speak to her. Are you in sorrow that your father is no longer a living soul? Oh, yes, he is. Speak to him. Are you feeling sorrow for Latasha Harlan? I know you are. Speak to her. Are you so concerned that Cyrus, that young Cyrus, is no longer with us? Well, he will be able to come and go without being repulsed. What does that mean when they say the entrance of the Duat? They're saying that once they come back here, they can go back there. They're not going to just get stuck on the physical plane. That's what this says. And it also says, in order for them to come and go, what should they receive? What should they receive? Loaves of bread in the house of coolness. By the way, I would like for you, here's your homework, tell us what the house of coolness is. I want you to tell us what the house of coolness is. What is the house of coolness? Where is it that they should be receiving these offerings? And then they should also receive offerings in Anu, which is a field that endures in Seket Auri. And there they will also receive wheat and barley. There's the word for wheat. Look at that. Per Betty. You see that? You have the words for wheat and for barley here. And that as they receive these offerings and they come and they go, they are Asar. They're not just praying to Asar. They're not just asking Asar for grace and mercy. They're not just looking up at a cross and saying, oh, Jesus, help me. They're saying that they are Asar. This is fundamental to our spiritual tradition. You are divine. You are divine. This is powerful. I don't even know if you're ready. I hope you're ready. This is powerful. Do I see a hand, a comment, or a question?
So does this mean that they're ghosts?
I think that when we think of the word ghost, we think of something that some people would call spooky. Oh, they're around someplace. I would say that they are living souls. They told you what they were already. They're a living soul. What's the phrase? I wouldn't use the word ghost. Look at the phrase. Where's the phrase? Do you see it in page 10? Ba'ank. They are living souls. That's who they are. They are living souls. And you know they use the word Ba here intentionally. The Ba is the symbol of the soul that has the head of the person who was an ancestor on the body of a bird. And you might say, well, why would they do that? I think what they're trying to say is this person can alight, can fly, and be at any place in a matter of seconds. So they've made it look like this person, this ancestor, is a bird. Yes.
Does the House of Coolness have anything to do with the spirit door?
Yes. Who asked that?
Jaheim, right?
Good question. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. People have been reading and studying, huh? And if you call it a spirit door, that means you've been up in the Shrine of Ma'at. Go ahead, Jaheim, because not too many other people call it a spirit door. But look at this. Do you understand what this means? By the way, the other thing you need to take away is this. You are crying for your deceased loved one. Have you fed them? Have you fed them? Because it's telling you right here that they must receive offerings. That a living soul must receive offerings. You have heard me say this before, Kemetic. That which you feed is that which lives. That which you feed is that which lives. Is there something in your life that you keep coming upon, that you want to no longer be in your life? Are you feeding it? Is there something that you've been pining on, thinking about, begging for, and it still hasn't come into existence? Are you feeding it? This is a fundamental prayer that helps us understand our nature in reference to the rest of divine creation. Yes.
Where can I find a copy of the book of the dead or the personhood?
You can find a copy on Amazon. You can find a copy in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's not on Amazon.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's not going to say Pertin Haru, unfortunately. What you need to do is look for the Rayu Pertin Ruinger. Look for unfortunately, you're going to have to look for Book of the Dead. And look for the one that has been translated by E.A. Wallace Budge. By the way, you're going to find it online too. You're going to find PDFs online as well. But you will be able to find it. The ones that are usually translated by Budge either have a golden falcon on it with a plume, and the plume looks like a gold item on top of his head, or you're going to see the one that has Anpu on the front. Those are usually the ones that are translated. And yes, it is on Amazon. Anika, are you looking for it right now? Is that what you're doing? Aren't you looking for it because you know it's there?
I'm communicating with people.
Here it is. I'm looking right now. Book of the Dead, Egypt. I should have put in E.A. Wallace Budge. Here it is. Now, on my search, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The seventh one you will see has an image of Anpu on it. Can you see that? The seventh one has an image of Anpu on it, and it says E.A. Wallace Budge. That is what you're looking for. And this one here says you can get it. I'm a Prime member, but I could get it by Tuesday on June 6th, and it's $12.99, $13. It's interesting. It's $13. Anyway, it's $13. So it's there. Just look for it. Okay, it's definitely there. You can get that copy there. Now, I suggest that you try to get the copy from A and B, because then you're going to have Baba Haru's beautiful design on it. That one might be a little bit more difficult to get. In fact, I don't think that they're even printing hardcover versions anymore. They only have the softcover version. But definitely you should try to get it. Get it so that you can read along with us. I'm telling you that these words are powerful, and they were spoken by the most powerful, the most influential Africans ever to walk on two legs. Why not do what they did? Why not do what they did? So I know that I believe that Shane the Watcher asked us for a prayer, didn't he? It's almost like he knew that I was going to do this. There's the prayer, page 10, Rayu Pertin Murungir, Insert the name of the ancestor instead of Ani. But this is the prayer that you can speak. So, and you are asking for this person to receive offerings, and you're asking for them to be able to come and go as they please without being prevented to return to the afterlife. You are saying that they are a being of millions of years and that they are Asar, the very symbol of resurrection. This is powerful. This is powerful. So family, I know that we have struggled. I know that we have been struggling in many ways with the loss of our loved ones. And I want us to recognize, first of all, that they are not gone, that they are ancestors. But I also want us to become responsible for trying to change some of the injustices. Here are some of my suggestions on what we are able to do to change some of the injustices so that folks like Cyrus Carmack Belton and Latasha Harlan and Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin and so on and so on and so on, Tyree Nichols, so on and so on and so on. So this will end. Here's my 5-step proposal for you. First, balance the truth of the criminal justice focus on people of African descent with way of finding ways for kids to be kids. Hear what I'm saying here. We need to be able to tell our kids about how the criminal justice system works so that they are prepared to deal with it when they are actually at the behest of authority figures. But we also need to balance this with allowing them not to just be adults who are fearful. We need to allow them to be kids. Try to find safe spaces for them to be children. That's my number 1 suggestion. Number 2, be sure to develop emotional, spiritual, and psychological self-care plans. This stuff can take a toll on your mental, family. It can hurt. I know people in our community that say they don't want to hear about it anymore because it hurts them. And the reason why they say that is because it hurts them and they don't see it stopping. So why am I harming myself when it just continues to happen? Develop a self-care plan. I'm not saying, listen to me very carefully. We need to know what's happening, because if we don't know what's happening, then that means that the family of young Cyrus and the family of young Latasha and others are simply doing this, finding justice for their loved one thing on their own. So please do not turn it off. I know that it can be damaging. Don't turn it off. Instead, develop a self-care plan. Maybe there's some things that you can do so you can have some joy in your life. I'm going to tell you that Black folks have been catching hell in the West forever. And sometimes one of the stories that we don't tell enough is the fact that Black people also have a whole lot of fun. That we have found ways to embrace Black joy through the most difficult periods. Why is it that our music is the best music in the world? That has influenced everyone in every corner of the world. Why? Because even though we've been dealing with the devilish acts of the Tamhu in the West, we have still found ways to smile and to love and to laugh and to sing. So please develop your self-care plan. Number 3, become involved with movements for justice. You are a vessel of Ma'at. Did you hear what I said? Become involved with movements for justice. You are a vessel for Ma'at. Now, let me say this to you. I hear people in our community critiquing those movements and not doing a damn thing but critiquing. Get off of your damn couch. How can you critique a movement without being part of it? Get off your damn couch. Become involved. There is no perfect organization. It does not exist. There is no perfect organization. If you think there's a perfect organization, it's because you're looking at it from the outside. There is no perfect organization or no perfect movement. Become involved. That's the only way that we will move the ball down the field. I've heard so much critique of the Black Lives Matter movement. Some of the critiques are ridiculous. Some of them are valid critiques. By the way, I hear the ridiculous ones more than I hear the valid critiques. But the reality is, I guarantee you that without the Black Lives Matter movement, there would not be charges for the killers of George Floyd. There would not be charges for there wouldn't have been a charge. I doubt there would have been a charge here in this case with the killing of young Cyrus Carmack Belton. We've seen this many times. We've seen it. How much you want to bet there'd be no charge? All your critiques might be warranted, but have they gotten something accomplished? That's what you have to ask yourself. And unless you're ready to create a new movement that's more successful, stop jaw-jacking. I was going to say something else. Stop jaw-jacking. That's how we used to say back in the 80s. Jaw-jacking? Have I dated myself? Stop flapping your gums and do something. You are the vessel of Ma'at. You are the vessel of Ma'at. Number 4, a corrective history of Africans is critical. One of the reasons why people don't have value in the lives of Africans is because they don't know what we have meant to the world. One of the reasons why we don't have value for ourselves is because we don't know what we have meant to the world, what we've done, who we've been. A corrective understanding of our history, particularly of that history prior to enslavement, is of importance. I'm not just saying not just the history prior to enslavement, because the valor and the bravery that we see during our enslavement, we should be studying as well. And then number 5, Kemetic shrines must be public spaces for dialogue of something more than spirituality. Did you hear what I said? Kemetic shrines must be public spaces for dialogue about more than just spirituality. If you are one of the practitioners of the oldest spiritual tradition in the world, how should the elder respond in chaos? Don't you look to the elder to explain what to do when things are their worst? If you are the practitioner of the world's oldest spiritual tradition, what are you supposed to do? We should do more. Just as in the civil rights era and earlier, we see the church, the Black church, was a place for the social movements. In some ways, so was the mosque. Let's be clear that you could call Malcolm X a reverend, and you definitely better call Martin Luther King a reverend. These spiritual institutions were institutions for change. You can critique them both. I have done that heavily. But you better understand their movements for change. If you're going to stand in your shrine and just critique them, stop jaw-jacking. It's time for us to do more. So those are my 5 steps for what we must do. Those are my 5 steps for what we must do. I would love to see you post your plan, your specific plan for any of these on your social media page and tag hashtag the Shrine of Ma'at. Hashtag Shrine of Ma'at. So often we see people draw inspiration from Kemetic Ascension and other things that we do. And I see them on social media. They don't say, hey, this is something I'm doing because of Kemetic Ascension. You should share it so that other people can share this important gathering as well. Does that make sense? I hope it does to you. Family, with all of that, you have to light a candle for those people who are no longer here. Those people who are ancestors who died in these challenging circumstances. It is important for us to do so. Anika.
Can you explain deeper what you mean by what are you feeding?
What are you feeding? What I'm saying is, and I'll say more about this in a future Kemetic Ascension, but honestly, what I'm saying is that when something keeps showing up in your life, you're doing something for it to show up in your life. You are a being imbued with infinite power. If something keeps showing up in your life, What are you doing for it to show up in your life? And if something isn't showing up in your life, what are you doing for that not to show up in your life? A fundamental principle of the universe is that which you feed is that which lives. We can be talking very specifically as well. Are you feeding the ancestors? Very specifically. And then more ethereally, more philosophically, that which you feed is that which lives. What are you doing if there's something you want in your life? What are you doing if something you don't want in your life? That which you feed is that which lives. I'll do a whole Kemetic Ascension on that concept as well, so that we can drill down a bit further to it. Other comments or questions before we close? Can I say that the divine force in me meets the divine force in you? Dua for being part of Kemetic Ascension. And I really hope that you are going to look at those 5 proposal points and work with them and move with them. Let's see what you're doing. Post them on your social media. I want to see them on Instagram. I want to see them on Facebook. Come on, let's get it popping. Let's do what we have to do so that we're able to do something different. So we're able to push this movement for justice for Black people forward. And while you do that, don't forget to feed and to speak to these ancestors. Can we have the final affirmation?
Hello, everyone. I'm trying to get the camera over here.
Oh, it moves? No, you gotta do this. And then, right. And then it'll refocus on you. You're in camera. You're in frame.
Okay. Well, I know this was a very difficult topic, and it seems like it just keeps coming up over and over again, and we haven't been able to figure out how to stop this. And that's why it was important for Jabari to go through the 5 steps, because we can't continue to allow this to happen. We can't continue to wake up every morning and see another broadcast of one of our children being killed, or one of our just Black people or people of color being killed just because of who they are, not because of what they've done. So it's important for us to meditate on this and to talk to our families and our friends about it, and to continue to get the word out, to continue to talk about it, because the only way people are going to know what's happening is if people are hearing from you. Some people are not even paid attention to television. Some people are out there too busy doing what they do on a day-to-day basis. They're working. They're focused on their own families and not seeing what's going on in the world and how it can impact their families, even if they're not paying attention to it. So it's really important for us to focus on that.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd like to end with our regular prayer that we usually talk about from the Perta Meru and excuse me, Meru and Perta Meru and Ger, the coming forth from today from
the reason
night.
why she made that error is because practitioners usually just call it
the
Perta Meru. We shorten it. So she was saying what we always say, but she wanted to give the longer term name. That's what happened.
So it's the Reu and Perta Meru and Ger, the coming forth today from night. Chapters are coming forth today from night. So let us start with our Amasu, one of the oldest prayers that you'll find in the text. And we need to start off by standing in our pose of adoration. And you know how to do that from earlier. So if you can just repeat after me in the language of our ancestors into enter, and then again in English. Amasu and Panter.
Amasu and Pa Inter.
Sauksu.
Sauksu.
Emitra.
Emitra.
And Pa Inter.
And Pa Inter.
Autu.
Autu.
Aura.
Aura.
Maketi Pa.
Maketi Pa.
Herura.
Herura.
Give yourself to the One Most High.
Give yourself to the One Most High.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
And do it tomorrow.
And do it tomorrow.
Just as you did it today.
Just as you did it today.
Twelve winter.
Twelve winter.
Thank you to the divine. And thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much, family. I hope that you're going to find some balance in all of this, right? Please don't just be in sorrow. Recognize that our selves, our ancestors, our family are immortal. Speak to them, feed them, love them, and continue their journey. And also, it's time to get some payback. It's time for us to do those things that will prevent this from continuing to happen. With that, the divine force in me greets the divine force in you. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Ankh and Maha. Shem and Maha, go forth in divine peace and balance.